In 2022, we celebrate 130 years of HBCU football. On December 27th, 1892, Livingstone and Biddle College, now known as Johnson C. Smith University, played in Salisbury, North Carolina, with Biddle winning 5-0. Over time, HBCU football has evolved. HBCU football's popularity continues to rise. Millions attend games each year and millions more watch on television. The HBCU bands provide some of the top entertainment in the country. Over that time, some of the best players to ever play in the National Football League played at HBCUs. Every Monday through Friday on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, national radio and television host Donal Ware takes a look at what's happening in HBCU football and talks with coaches, players, administrators, and media about the 2022 season. Make sure you join the conversation on social media by using the hashtag HBCU130. Now, here's your host, Donal Ware.
You got it locked to the HBCU Football Daily Podcast for today, Wednesday, October 19th. I'm Donal Ware, Hump Day edition of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. We're going to transition into Week 8. Think about this. We restarted, new season, shall we say, of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast began on Monday, July the 18th, and we're already at Wednesday, October the 19th. And I tell you what, this is going to be a great finish to the HBCU football season. So we're going to look at the Week 8 schedule. Allen is hosting Bluefield State. So Allen has been putting up a lot of points, looking for its first victory of the season. Meanwhile, Bluefield State has been off, I think back-to-back weeks, was at least off last week. And again, Bluefield State is an NCAA Division II member, but an independent member, but has played some pretty good football this year, played some pretty good teams, and is 4-2 on the season. Bowie State and Shawan. This is a home game for Bowie State. I think what's interesting is if you're Bowie State now, you've got a couple of losses in the conference. You're still trying to maintain and trying to keep pace. I mean, it's going to be tough with Virginia Union. I think at this point, you got to hope that something catastrophic happens. I just don't see it for Virginia Union, but maybe Bowie State is playing for a playoff berth right now. Bowie State has got 3 losses on the season. Who would have thought that would have been the case, but still 3 games remaining. Anything can happen. Shawan, on the other hand, it's got a couple of losses, but still maybe an outside shot at that Northern Division. But I mean, gotta obviously get a win on Saturday on the road. Central State is hosting Edward Waters. Virginia State on the road against Elizabeth City State. So again, if you're Virginia State, sort of in the same boat, couple of losses, maybe an outside shot. I mean, Virginia Union is just running away, controls its own destiny, but maybe for Virginia State, and again, maybe an outside shot at a playoff berth. Howard is hosting Delaware State. It's homecoming in Washington, D.C., and Howard is looking for a win. I mean, 1 win on the season, looking for a win, looking for a MEAC win. Talked about this a little bit on yesterday. If you're Delaware State, you can't fool around with Howard. You got to go ahead and get the victory. Delaware State is on a roll, really 4-2 on the season, looking to make it 2-0 in conference play. Johnson C. Smith is hosting Fayetteville State. I don't really see Fayetteville State slipping up here, but if you're Fayetteville State, you don't want to slip up. 2 games and you've win the next 2 or 2 of the next 3, you have clinched the Southern Division for the 5th straight year. St. Aug's is hosting Winston-Salem State. Shaw is hosting Livingstone. West Virginia State is hosting Concord. Now, in that Mount East Division, West Virginia State's got 3 losses in the conference. West Virginia State's got 3 losses in the conference. Meanwhile, Concord is number 1 in the Mount East by division points with only 1 loss. So this is a must-win for West Virginia State if it wants to have any chance of trying to win the Mountain East Conference. Remember, they're still, you see, we're what 7 games into the season. So really in the Mountain West, they play 11 games. So it's still 4 games remaining for West Virginia State. In what could be the HBCU national game of the week, South Carolina State is hosting North Carolina Central. Big time football game. You look at North Carolina Central's coming off the big win last week, just blew Morgan State away. And South Carolina State's, looking at, it's going to be the first conference game for South Carolina State. So the defending champs. And I mean, Delaware State's going to have something to say about this. The winner of this game obviously is going to keep pace with Delaware State in the MEAC. Florida Memorial on the road at Weber International. Texas College got its first, that probably should have been one of my takeaways from yesterday, as Texas College got its first victory of the season on Saturday. Looking for victory number 2, going to be hosting Arizona Christian. Lincoln of Pennsylvania is hosting Virginia Union. Your Virginia Union, you got to take care of Lincoln of Pennsylvania, but this is not a cakewalk. Like Lincoln of Pennsylvania is playing. I mean, it's not showing up in the wins column, 2-4 on the season, but still playing much better football. And as I've continued to say, I think Josh Dean has Lincoln on the right track. North Carolina A&T on the road taking on Robert Morris. Alcorn State is at home hosting Texas Southern. Alcorn State's got some work to do. Southern is in the lead right now in terms of that SWAC Western Division, but Texas Southern has got an outside shot, 2 losses in the conference, but it's got a head-to-head victory over Southern if Southern slips up. In what I think could be possibly, and you look at Jackson State, if you look at the coaches poll, I think the coaches poll, Jackson State's ranked number 6 in all of FCS. In the media poll, ranked number 9. Jackson State for homecoming is hosting Campbell. Now, Campbell, we're in Raleigh, but I live actually in essence, really, literally 7 miles from Campbell. Literally 7 miles from Campbell. So I've seen this program. This is a program that beat North Carolina Central, who, remember, I had ranked second in my power rankings, beat them down 48-18. This is a good Campbell program. Mike Minter is the head coach. My understanding, they've got big offensive linemen, big defensive line, so they're big up front. Could present a challenge, definitely a challenge to Jackson State and its homecoming in Jackson, Mississippi. Lane and Tuskegee. This is a big game in the SIAC's Western Division, right? You're looking at Lane, only one loss. Let me look it up real quick. I want to be sure about that. I believe Lane only had 1 loss in the conference. Yes, I am correct. So Lane with only 1 loss in the conference. Meanwhile, you look at Tuskegee. Tuskegee dropped its first couple of games, but Tuskegee is on a roll, has won, is 4-0 in the conference. And so Tuskegee is playing some really, really good football right now. So if you're the Golden Tigers, you want to keep that going. And Lane, Lane's good, excellent football. I mean, it's good, solid football program. You remember beat Tennessee State, then lost the following week. So, maybe a little bit inconsistent up and down, but that's going to be a good football game. Also qualifies, I think, for in the running for the HBCU National Game of the Week. Tennessee State is hosting Eastern Illinois. Again, Tennessee State, no losses in OVC play, only 1 game. But this is an OVC game. If you're Tennessee State, this is a must win. Langston is hosting Ottawa. So Ottawa and Langston both have 1 loss in the Sooner Athletic Conference. Langston got out to that great start, 6-0, dropped the game last week. This is a big game for Langston because in the NAIA, there's no, I can't remember. I don't think if you win the division in your conference, I should say, in NAIA, it doesn't mean you get an automatic berth. So if you're Langston, it helps if you win the conference. And then you want to get as many wins as you can. And this is an Ottawa team that is very, very tough. Lincoln of Missouri is hosting Nebraska Kearney. Miles is hosting Kentucky State. If you're Kentucky State, you're still in the running for the division in the SIC for a division crown. So this is a must win for Kentucky State. Miles is out of it. Hampton is hosting Richmond. Richmond is ranked in both the FCS coaches and media polls. Hampton coming off that win on last week against Albany and wants to continue things. Morehouse is hosting Benedict. It's been a struggle for Morehouse this year, hasn't won a football game. Meanwhile, you look at Benedict. Benedict is undefeated on the season. If you're Benedict, you cannot fool around with Morehouse. You got to go ahead and win that football game because, again, Benedict probably needs 2 wins to clinch the SIAC's Eastern Division. Morgan State with an out-of-conference game got to go up to Wilmington to take on Delaware. Mississippi Valley State is hosting Bethune-Cookman. Valley winless on the season. Bethune-Cookman is struggling. Also, Prairie View A&M out of conference this week, had a bye week, lost the game prior to the bye week, wants to try to get back on track, non-conference game against Lamar. Southern, big win last week over Alcorn State, big win 2 weeks ago against Prairie View A&M. It's got Virginia University of Lynchburg coming in. It is homecoming in Baton Rouge. Clark Atlanta's hosting Fort Valley State again. Fort Valley State still's got an opportunity at that Eastern Division crown. It's a slim one because Benedict is playing so well. And, of course, Benedict has the head-to-head advantage over Fort Valley State, still a big game. And then in another big game, Savannah State is hosting Albany State. I think at this point, if you're Savannah State, 3 losses in the conference, probably out of it. But if you're Albany State, you got to get as many wins. It's going to be tough to win that Eastern Division with Benedict where it is, having beaten Albany State head-to-head. However, if you're Albany State, you still have a shot for the Division II playoffs for an at-large berth. All berths actually are at-large in Division II, but you've got an opportunity at an at-large berth, even if they don't play in the SIAC championship. I mean, it'll be tough, but if you can finish 8-2, if you're Albany State, couple of appearances in the playoffs the last couple of years, back-to-back SIAC champs, I think the committee would look upon that favorably. So that's week 8, in HBCU football. Thank you for joining us on today's HBCU Football Daily Podcast, whether you're listening or watching. Of course, you can listen every day on our website, boxtorow.com, also on iHeartMedia.com, or wherever you get your podcast. You can also watch the HBCU Football Daily Podcast on the Box to Row YouTube page. Have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. You can also listen to the podcast at boxtorow.com, iHeartMedia, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to get your HBCU football fix on Box to Row with Donal Ware each weekend on the radio station near you, and on SiriusXM on HBCU, Channel 142, and on ESPNU Radio on SiriusXM, Channel 84. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Box to Row for the latest in HBCU football, and don't forget to tell a friend.